Today's big question, did Spain against France decide the Ballon d'Or? Well, it did decide how high our heart rates could possibly go because what a match that turned out to be. Maybe not in the best ways for Spain, who will be facing Portugal then this weekend in the final of the UEFA Nations League. But to me, going in, the storyline was Lamine Yamal against Ousmane Dembele. And if you had told me that some semifinal one-off in the beginning of June match could decide the Ballon d'Or, well, I would say that doesn't feel right because it does come down a lot to what they do in their clubs, and then there are different criteria. I felt like we've already kind of decided in the two camps, but I want to lay out the argument here on this little special short video. I am, by the way, for those watching, wearing a France jersey, but this is a little bit biased because this is my Thierry Henry. I was rooting for Spain in that match, so no worries about any of that. That's just me doing a little bit of fun trolling. The first name, though, we should mention, if we're just going to give the Ballon d'Or for this individual match, which we shouldn't, at least in the first half, it was Unai Simon before he let in 4 goals in the second half, which Vivian did not help with in any way. But yes, Unai Simon made some huge saves, and France would have won this game if not for him. But he's not getting the Ballon d'Or here. We're having the argument for Dembele against Lamine Yamal. And if this game was a microcosm of the whole season, I actually do think it was. Because, well, except France would have won the game instead of Spain, because Dembele won the Champions League and all that stuff. But Dembele in the first half, at least, arguably was having the better match. He was impacting the way that France were getting forward. He was finding space on the wing. He was defending things that Lamine Yamal wasn't necessarily doing at a high level. And if France were to win that match, you know that Dembele was going to be a huge part of it. He was peppering Simon's goal with a ton of shots. But Lamine Yamal, we saw the whole totality of 90 minutes. He was still doing his thing. Picked up some assists, won a PK, scored the PK, which it looked like Nico Williams would let him take instead of him actually taking it from him. He was trying to give it to Nico. It looked like Nico just said, all right, you take it, kid. And then he scores the 5th goal from a tight angle, what wound up being the winner in Spain's clash with France to get them to the next round. The way I'm now setting this up, where the goals, the victory, it went to Lamine Yamal, that's not really how the club season played out. Now, Barcelona, of course, did win a domestic treble, so everybody cool it on the trophies that Lamine Yamal didn't necessarily win, because are we just judging the Ballon d'Or, which is a popularity contest, not really a real award? We kind of already said that through the years, but Messi hasn't. We do take it seriously at some point, but it is, in a sense, a popularity award, because to say that football is just about metrics is unfair. And until we've completely overanalyzed the way that American sports like baseball, and even the way that we do with American football, somehow with fantasy numbers and all those things. And of course, basketball is a huge numbers and say data analytics sport. Football is still not like that. That's not the way. And so we do have to, when we give out individual awards, judge a little bit by criteria of team success, the eye test, and then total numbers and all those things. So making the argument for Lamine Yamal first, why he should win the Ballon d'Or, with this match even being a microcosm of that. The eye test tells us that kid is the biggest difference maker. The word best, let's throw out things like that. I just mean difference maker in world football. There is no player that commands double teams the way that he does. There's no player that commands so much attention by a back line, game in and game out. That is Lamine Yamal. The eye test tells us that kid, 17-year-old, who cares about age, that kid is the best player in world football. As well as the legend supporting. Even, and I will whisper this name to you, Luis Figo. Even Luis Figo, who, if he does say too many things good about an FC Barcelona player in one sentence, lightning will strike him down. So Luis Figo even saying that Lamine Yamal should win the Ballon d'Or and has been the best player in the world, that tells you that the legends, many of which have said, Lamine Yamal, what are we doing here? That's the best player in world football this year. The problem for Lamine Yamal is why Dembele might win this. And it might just come down to the Champions League trophy. Him being able to hold that up. Yeah, if Dembele, you want to have a player for PSG to be rewarded, well, last season, well, it would have been Kylian Mbappe. Instantly, regardless of what he did. Numbers wouldn't have mattered. Kylian Mbappe, hey, France, that's the guy you put on all your posters. That's the guy who's going to Ballon d'Or. And they don't have that this year. That's not what PSG is. Maybe Luis Enrique deserves a Ballon d'Or for the job he did with PSG in the second half of the season. So trophies, that would be the number one thing for Ousmane Dembele. And the other part of it is that if the voting committee feels like 17, we cannot give the Ballon d'Or. He'll be 18 in the fall, yes, but we cannot give the Ballon d'Or to an 18-year-old kid. If that's what the voting committee feels like, well, then Dembele kind of has to win it. Because looking at the numbers, there's not that much to compare the two. I think people poo-pooed the idea of Lamine Yamal not being a goal scorer because of the chances that I think Kool-Aid, as I mentioned, myopically look at their own team and forget that every forward in world football, if they hit every chance or they made every goal they were expected to score, well, then they would all have 70 goals a season. But that's not how goals work. That's not how the ball works. That's not how goalkeepers. There's a reason why they're there in the net. So Lamine Yamal still scored 18 goals, 25 assists, 43 total goal contributions in 4,500 plus minutes and 55 total appearances for Barcelona this season. Dembele, 33 goals, so 15 more than Lamine Yamal in that category, 10 less assists with 15, still 48 total goal contributions, a +5 in that category, in around 3,300 minutes in 49 appearances. Again, his team also winning the UEFA Champions League. So those kind of numbers, 33 and 15, the same way that 18 and 25 usually aren't the kind of goal-scoring numbers that win you the Ballon d'Or. You can ask Cristiano Ronaldo, you can ask Lionel Messi. It just doesn't work out that way if you don't score at least 40 to 50 goals. Committees just want more goals out of you. The other argument would be a guy who scored one more goal than Dembele, but also had the same number of assists as Lamine Yamal, and that's Raphinha. Raphinha's argument is 57 appearances, so the most of the trio in club this season, 4,600 plus minutes, and then 34 goals, I mentioned, 25 assists. That's 59 total goal contributions for Raphinha. And when we're talking even about the moments, how many moments? Very much like, yes, Dembele had his moments, and so did Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal certainly in Champions League had his moments. But Raphinha moments, that was just a injection of energy into my heart and soul this season that I did not expect. And Raphinha seemed to just be that big game player this year. So could it be Raphinha kind of from the top rope with that other argument? Now, Brazil didn't play in this matchup between Spain and France, but I come away from this Spain and France match kind of feeling if France had turned the tables and actually won that match, that would probably be the result that would fit this narrative. But if France winds up winning that game, you feel like that was a perfect microcosm of the Ballon d'Or debate. That Lamine Yamal, he's doing the thing. The eye test tells you that he's won it, but yet the success goes to Dembele and France in this case. But yeah, that wasn't the case. So maybe that is enough of an argument for Lamine Yamal. Maybe Raphinha actually deserves to be the winner of the Ballon d'Or for having the total goal contributions, all those big moments. And maybe we are just underrating him because it takes a while for you to kind of be the guy. And I don't know, I said it on a watch along quite a few weeks ago that Ousmane Dembele, because of what he has always been for FC Barcelona fans, now he's winning PSG, sure, for 2 years. But this version of Ousmane Dembele at 28, guys can get better. And that's funny because Raphinha is almost the same argument I'm having. Raphinha went from being a player that we just didn't think could be a Ballon d'Or winner. And when I look at the total list of Ballon d'Ors and their total careers, those two, just Dembele and Raphinha, if one of those guys won, it felt like, yeah, as part of a total career accomplishment award, which it's not. That's not what it is. It's for an individual season. They feel a bit out of place, or they definitely feel in that, bottom tier of Ballon d'Or winners in terms of the success of the totality of their careers and who they were at their ceilings. And Lamine Yamal, that feels like a pretty good gamble. I know he's just going to be 18 if he were to win it, but if you give that to an 18-year-old, it feels like Lamine Yamal is that level, that caliber of player that you hand a Ballon d'Or to. And maybe those are some of the arguments that the voters are having in their own heads. I obviously want to hear what you think, so let me know down in the comments below. And I will not have a watch along on Sunday for the Spain match, but if I do, Spain-Portugal, just look out for that. Again, subscribing to the YouTube channel. That is the way so you don't miss anything. And also becoming a member for free on Big Up so you get the emails, you get the notifications, and you don't miss any watch-alongs. There are ways for you to know when I'm making content. Just subscribing for free. It's really easy. So as always, until next time, I hope everybody is enjoying their off-season. And of course, about that.